So welcome back to Flight Past. We are today following the route Napoleon. We are tracing Napoleon's steps as he leaves exile from Elba. He sails over about 3 days. He leaves about 26th of February. He, as we remember from the poem that we read, he was the tiger that has broken out of his den, and he's the monster then who was 3 days at sea, and he's now the wretch that's landed at Fréjus and the brigand that has arrived at Thébes. So we are now heading towards Grenoble over the mountains. And by the time he gets there, he will be the invader that had reached Grenoble. And it was kind of to Napoleon's advantage for news to break. You know, for him to have a wave of news ahead of him enabled people to get used to the fact that he was back and allow him to garner support. He was avoiding the route around Marseille and the Rhone Valley, which he experienced aggressive behaviour from the Royalists. And he was going to try and get over these mountains in the sort of late winter time, March, and get over to the Dauphine area where he knew he would have some support. So, hey, Tutti, good to see you. So I've mapped out the route for us. If you want to join me, I'm on the European server. Well, this is the route we're going to take over the mountains, and we're going to try and pick up the road where we see it and follow it along. Hopefully the weather should be good. We'll keep it on live weather. So we're in the south of France. And his first route, part of the route is to Grasse, which is this place here. I'm probably killing these pronunciations, I know. You can probably tell. So his landing, of course, you see, he's landed, he managed to escape Elba, and the news that he's set foot on the shores of France as takes the authorities by surprise. And the news, as I say, he takes about 7 days to do this route to Grenoble, but the news reaches Paris in 4 days. And then it takes, I think by 9 days, the news has reached London. So this is Grasse. He's starting to head up into the sort of foothills of the Alps. We'll just do a little circle around here. It's quite nice scenery. So initially, the French, the reaction of the population is a calm about it, as that poem I read out before in the previous episode. This is the one which is what news, ma foi? The tiger has broke out of his den. The monster was out. Was 3 days at sea. The wretch has landed at Fréjus. The brigand has arrived at Antibes. The invader has reached Grenoble. The general has entered Lyon. You see, there you suddenly get that change of public opinion. The closer Napoleon gets to Paris, the more he becomes back to his old self. He's the general when he enters Lyon. Napoleon, his name is Napoleon. Is now spent his last night at Fontainebleau. The emperor proceeds to the Tuileries today, and his imperial majesty will address his loyal subjects tomorrow. So you can see how that gives this sense of the public opinion. At first, they're like, oh, they're going to contain, and of course, the closer he gets to Paris, they realise he's not going to be contained, and the more people go across to him. As he's going up here through these towns, the next one after this, Grasse, he heads up to a place called Mouin, Sartou. The local authorities make no effort at all to apprehend him. And he uses this hesitation, I suppose, by local authorities to take advantage and push on inland with his small troops. See if we can just follow this road. I think this is the actual route Napoleon that heads off into the mountains from the coast. So we'll see if we can follow this. Of course, he's using this route. He wants to avoid the Provence area. He wants to avoid Marseille. These are traditionally Royalist Bourbon areas, and he wants to get past this area as quick as possible. So as I say, the 5th of March, the news of Napoleon's landing has reached Paris, and the report had reached Lyon by courier, and then they used the semaphore telegraph, these sort of flag lever pole things, to send a semaphore to Paris from Lyon. And the French government then realise what's happened, and they begin to start collecting a force at Lyon, deliberately with the sole purpose of opposing him. Louis XVIII assures the foreign diplomats that the news causes him no concern. He says his return gives him no more cause of concern than his gout, which is weird. And Fitzroy Somerset, the British charge d'affaires in Paris, he quotes this reply to his message to Castlereagh in London. The French paper called the Moniteur describes it as an act of madness, which can be dealt with by a few rural policemen. So they're not they're acting that they're not concerned. They're telling the population that it's under control, but at the same time they're raising a force to intercept him. Le Moniteur was a French newspaper that was founded in 1789 under the title of the Gazette Nationale, or Le Moniteur Universal. And it was a newspaper, the main newspaper of the French Revolution, and was the main propaganda paper, I suppose, for the French government at the time. Not sure which route he took here. Let me see. Yeah, I think we follow this. Let's follow this road, and then we come back around this. This valley, so we can see the sea over there. We're leaving the sea now. We're winding our way up into the mountains. So we have this real concern underlying the bravado. There is a worry. There's a lot of, I suppose, saying one thing but preparing for another by the French authorities. Some very beautiful scenery around here. It's about the journey that Napoleon takes is around about 200 miles, and he does this in about 6 to 7 days, and he doesn't get any resistance at all until he gets to the pass at Lafri, which we'll come to. And at that point, he is confronted then by troops of a battalion of the 5th Line Infantry and some engineers who block his path there. So we'll get there, but I thought we'd just take it a little bit easier today. Follow this route, get a sense of the distances. You remember, this is he's 45 years old, full of energy. This is it's a pretty serious route to take. 6 days, 200 miles. You're talking, 30 miles a day. It's at the Lafri when we get there. If you've ever seen the film, but this is where he confronts the 5th Line Infantry, blocks his way, and Napoleon steps forward and says his men of the fifth, who do you remember me, and all this sort of stuff, and quotes all their sort of victories they've had in the past, and he invites them to shoot him if they want to, and that's when the old loyalties spill over, and the infantry refuse to fire on their emperor. And then that battalion then leads to the 7th Regiment of the Line to desert to Napoleon en masse, and led by their commander, who was Colonel Ledoyer, and Napoleon would then enter into Grenoble without a shot being fired, and each time, so his now troops, when he gets to Grenoble, his troops have increased from 1,000 troops to about 4,000. And later he said, he would say, before Grenoble, I was an adventurer, and at Grenoble I was a reigning prince. And that's a quote from his diary when he was on St. Helena. So he all this journey here, obviously he doesn't know what's going to be on the other side of these mountains, what's going to occur. He is this adventurer. He's passing through these mountains in the late winter. It's a gamble. I mean, it's a complete gamble. But he pushes on, presumably knowing that what lies for him ahead is probably just an exile further away anyway. So, or even a possibility of escape to America. So trying to keep these episodes a little bit short for when we chop it up and bung it on to the YouTube for later. So we'll take a break here, and we'll come back with continued journey towards Grenoble on the route Napoleon.